channel called Sharmio, and in this demonstration, I'm going to show you how you can protect and make it a secure connection on your Jenkins server. So this is a Jenkins server has been installed on Ubuntu 20.04 LTS in Virginia region under my Sharmio account, and I'm logged in as an IAM user, not as an IAM role under this account. And I do have enough privileges to take the actions to create a load balancer or create a target group and add modified any existing security groups or the VPC network configuration. So you can see in the instance, there is an only one by one instance which is running, which is the Jenkins server demo US East 1. And this instance has already installed the Jenkins server. There is already a pre-existing video in my channel where I'm explaining about how to install a Jenkins in an Ubuntu or Amazon Linux too. So if you see, this is already have the public IP address attached to it, and this IP public address, which is from where we are accessing the Jenkins server. So if I'm trying to hit this Jenkins IP address directly, you will see it is not working because the reason is Jenkins required to be hit on the port, which is 8080. The moment I'm going to put the port 8080, it will lead you to this login page where you have provided your information. This username and the password is provided or you have created at the time when you have installed the Jenkins. But if you even forget your username and password, there is also another video about how you can reset your username and password for that of your Jenkins server details if you like to. So I highly recommend you to watch those two videos if you're having any troubleshooting or you have any issues regarding a Jenkins server installation on EC2 on the AWS cloud. And now what we are going to do is so we can see that our Jenkins is currently not secure. So in this demonstration, what we're going to do is we're going to create a load balancer and a target group, and we're going to try to make it in a secure connection between Jenkins and make it HTTPS secure, because this is currently not following any good practices, and we can see it looks weird as well about passing a static or a dynamic IP address. Currently, in my case, I'm not using any static IP address. I'm just using a dynamic IP address because I started this instance this morning and I don't want to spend money on the elastic IPs if I'm not using it. And I will also provided as a recommendations, like this is just demonstrations. Please, if you're running any of your application apart from testing environments into the development, production or pre-production or staging environments, if they are not required to be exposables to the public network, do not try to implement in a public IP address or in a public facing VPCs. Try to always put all your applications and the workloads, if they are internal usage, using the private IP addresses. So let's move to the load balancer. So what we're going to do is we're going to first create a load balancer. So AWS offers 4 different type of load balancer, which is application, network, gateway, and the classic load balancer, which is the deprecated, or you can say the previous generation of a load balancer. So what we're going to do is we're going to, depending upon your application type, whether what it's required an application load balancer or network load balancer on the OCP, which is the OSI layer on 4 or 7, and you go and create the different sort of load balancer. So to fit our requirement for this Jenkins server to be accessible, set the applications with the HTTP and HTTPS traffic, will go for the application load balancer. And how this application load balancer works, they have now AWS in the new interface, they have also provided us some information about how the ALB works. They are mentioning about your client is making the request to the application, which is the application load balancer. The application load balancer receives those requests as a listener and match the protocols and the ports that you have configured. From that, receiving the listener will actually forward those incoming requests to the specified dedicated target group. Inside those target group, you will have your targets, which is called as the EC2 instance or EC2 instances, depending upon how many instances you're configured inside your target group. So without wasting time, let's just try to create a basic configurations for a load balancer so that our Jenkins is actually behind a load balancer rather than trying to be. The benefit of having a load balancer, it can actually handle your the load, or you can say balance your traffic based on the number of incoming requests it's receiving. It might be the case like your website or application is required to be running on an average like 500 requests per minute, but suddenly because you are on some sale or some bounce incoming traffic, which is spiking up the your CPU consumption and everything. So it able to handle rather than giving some 502 bad gateway or 503 service unavailable errors. So it's always a good practice to put your applications behind a load balancers, depending upon what sort of load balancer you want to use. So let's just create the load balancer name Sharmio Jenkins ALB. ALB stands for the application load balancer. Now, in terms of the scheme, we need to define what sort of a load balancer we are creating. Please make sure you cannot change the scheme names once you have created the load balancer. In our case, we will going to focus on the internet facing load balancer, not the internal load balancer. The reason is because if I go to my EC2 service and click on the instance or instances running, so we can see it having a public IP address is allocated, and since it is deployed in the public facing VPC, I cannot actually try to make it the request from client to the target using a private IP address. That's why I have to go for the internet facing. But for the production related workload, it should be always internal. It never should be facing an internet facing unless if they require to be exposed over the internet. We don't need to worry about the IP version 4 versus a dual stack because we are not going to be having an IP version 6 in this case. So just go for the recommended AWS suggestion, which is the IP version 4. And now in terms of the networking mapping, we will just need to select which VPC for the target groups we have to allow. So I'm just going for the selected VPC, which is this one. Otherwise, you can select it from the drop down to change the VPC if you want to use a different VPC. And depending upon the VPC, you have to provide it your subnets as well as your availability zones. So as per the mappings, our minimum requirement is in this VPC for your load balancers to have a minimum of 2 availability zones. Just for the high availability zone of the AZs, I'm just going to provide it all the availability zone. So I'm just going to select all the AZs. And also you can see I'm doing the ClickOps here. I'm not doing any of the DevOps as an infrastructure as a code deploying as a Terraform, or you can say using a CloudFormation template. The reason is because I just want to make this demonstration as simple as possible using a ClickOps, not as an infrastructure as a tool. But if you are interested in as an infrastructure as a tool and you want to learn more about it, I'm happy to create more demonstrations how you can create this whole infrastructure using just infrastructure as a code, either with a Terraform or using some Ansible or just a CloudFormation stack. So now in terms of the listener port, we will just need to provide the protocol, which can be HTTP or HTTPS. I'm just going to provide the HTTPS right now. And once the load balancer is created, I'm just going to forward every request from HTTP to HTTPS. So I have provided the protocol, which is HTTPS, and now it is asking me to provide the target group. Now this target group does not exist. So what we have to do, click on the create target group. It will lead us to the new next page where we have to provide it the target group. Target group is nothing, it's just a group where we have a bunch of targets. We will gonna try to target them and perform the health checks on the targets. So it can be based on the instances, IP addresses, Lambda functions, and application load balancer. We're going to stick with the default, which is the instances, and I'm going to provide the name of the target group, which is the Sharmio demo target group. And I'm just going to add Sharmio Jenkins demo target group, just to be for my sake of the clarity, and the other people who are using my AWS account as my employee, they can also see, okay, this is just a demonstration, this is not anything else is running here. And in terms of the protocol, I just need to provide what sort of a protocol I'm just going to use. So I'm just going to go for the HTTP protocol, and I'm just going to select the port, which is 8080. And the protocol version is HTTP 1 is fine. I'm not going to change requesting to the target using HTTP version 1.1 or HTTP slash version 2. So depending upon what protocol version you would like to use, you can have more information and have a look. I'm just going to stick with the protocol version HTTP 1 for now. In terms of the health checks, we need to provide the health checks where the target groups try to check the health checks from the associated load balancer, basically try to periodically, depending upon the consecutive intervals we have set up, it will try to send the request to the target and see is it getting a healthy status or not. It actually gives us the information whether the service is alive or not. So what we're going to provide, so as they mentioned, use the default path for the slash, which is the pinned to the root, but in our case, we were going to try to put it on to the login, which is because if you see when I'm trying to hit the Jenkins, by default, it's hit me to the login page. So that's why I'm just changing from default root to the login page. You can override the port if you like to. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to stick with the traffic port. I'm just going to make the change in the consecutive unhealth threshold. So I'm just want to change from number of consecutive to 5 rather than 2. The number of consecutive health checks to be checked. Sometimes 1 or 2 failures, it can be start at the start of the service. So it's better to put a little bit more just for the sake. So I'm just changing to that. And I'm also changing the success code from 200 to 299. So anything ranges between 200 to 299 will be considered as the success code, and our health check will be passed from the when the listener from the load balancer is trying to make a request to the target group and see whether the service is alive or not. Just for this, I'm just going to add the some of the tagging, which is the environment. I'm just going to add as a testing, and let me just change the capital name, and I'm just going to provide it the department ID, and I'm just going to add one more tag, which is the country Australia, and let's just add some more tags into it. And this I'm just going to provide it the owner, which is the DevOps. So I'm just added like 4 different tags, and it's just provided the something which is this information. So what was the missing tag information? And it's saying about the target group cannot be longer than 32 characters, so we have to make it shorter. So let's just change target group to TG. Now it will be fit. Click on next. Now we will just need to provide the available instances where we wanted to add it to the target group as a target. So I'm just going to click include as pending below, and you see also make sure like you want to add to different ports. So in my case, I'm selecting the port 8080 where our Jenkins server is running. So once you do that, click on create a target group. Once the target group is created, we can see the target group, this one is created here, and we can see it is the target, which is the EC2 instance where the service is running. It's currently not in use. So what I'm going to do is now if I'm going to just go here and refresh the screen behind the scene, this console page is refreshed and the target group will gonna be shown. So we can see now our Sharmio Jenkins demo target group has been added, so which is a good thing. And now it's just providing about the secure listener settings about the security policy and the default SSL or DLS certificate. So for this demonstration, I'm going to use a wildcard, or you can use a dedicated DNS your certificate name. The reason why I want to use a wildcard because I'm going to show you 2 different route DNS names pointing to the same load balancer, and they will going to hit the same endpoint. And that's I can only achieve if I'm going to use the wildcard, because I'm going to put like xyz.sharmio.com and I'm going to use abc.sharmio.com, and they both will going to hit the same endpoint. So everything looks fine to me, and I'm just going to create the load balancer. Also, it's complaining about that this load balancer is already exists, so I'm just going to add demo in it, and let's just click on the create load balancer. So we can see the load balancer is successfully created. Now this load balancer, which is the Sharmio Jenkins demo ALB, this is the DNS name for that, and it's saying the status is provisioning. It's not provisioned yet, and it's a type of application load balancer, and we can see the scheme is internet facing. And this is the availability zone from this VPC we have provided with this subnets, and this is the security groups which we have provided. You can alter and provided the security groups so that you can only allow certain incoming requests or from using an inbound rule, so that nothing, if it's not in your range of your offices, then it should not be allowed to access that internal or external application depending upon what sort of application you're running. So this is just the additional attributes. If you like to play around with it, we're not going to do in this demonstration. And the listener is the where we are trying to put it, and the so what we have said is like it's moving to the HTTPS, which is the protocol which I'm using it, and I'm using the wildcard.sharmio.com, and I have this certificate I have created using the AWS certificate manager, which is the ACM service. You can create as many certificates you like. It's a free of cost service, and it's auto renewable by itself, so you don't have to worry about paying a $0 penny amount in anything, so you don't need to worry about. And the certificate managers automatically, you can just integrate with your services to make it completely SSL slash TLS session when you try to access your services. As you can see, currently it's unsecured. So what we're going to do is we're going to do something like xyz.sharmio.com, and then it will going to be completely secure, and we will be able to access our Jenkins behind a load balancer. But before that, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to add one more listener to it, which is the HTTP protocol on port 80, and I'm just going to redirect it to the protocol on 443. So what I'm trying to do here is, like, any request which is coming from, whether it's an HTTP or HTTPS. So any request, if it's made from HTTP, it will be redirected to HTTPS automatically, so that every client or the request is coming, even unsecured, make it secure forcefully. So that's what we are trying to do here. And then any request coming on HTTP, it will be using this SSL, it will gonna make it the session secure, and then it is forwarded to this target group which we just created. Inside this target group, we have provided our instance, and you can see the status is still initializing, and we can see the target type is instance, and the protocol is 8080, and the version which I provided is HTTPN, and this is the VPC and the load balancer configuration. We click on the target, we can see there is only one target has been registered. This is the target, and currently it's the target process was initiated. Now I can see it's in healthy status, and we can also see about the monitoring, about like in terms of like unhealthy host versus the host. Currently you are not seeing anything, no data is available because the target was not ready. Now the target has been ready. In after 30-40 minutes, you will see the data has been start coming up into it, and you will start seeing more graphs in it and the metrics in it, sorry. And in terms of the health check settings, we have provided the HTTP protocol with the login page, and the traffic port is just by default, and I have just provided unhealth checkups to 5. And then this is like every 30 seconds of interval, it's just gonna keep checking this endpoint just to see if the Jenkins is alive or not. And I have allowed the success code anything between 200 to 299 on this. So everything looks good. So let's just click on the target and go to the details and go to the load balancer and try to copy the name of the DNS record. So this is the DNS names I just copy, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go to the service which is the Route 53 and map it up so that I can give that DNS name to my dev team to able to access to the Jenkins using a secure protocol. So clicking on the hosted zone, depending upon how many hosted zone you have to see. So make sure you have to create this DNS record in the public, private, not in a private hosted zone, in a public hosted zone, because we have created as an internal facing, not an internet facing. So what I'm going to do, as this is my public hosted zone, this is not a private hosted zone, I'm going to click on create a record. So I'm going to create two records. One is, let's say, Sharmio Jenkins, and I cannot provide, if I'm trying to provide the DNS name directly, it will gonna give me the error that you cannot provide because it's an invalid change batch. So the reason is, if you want to provide aliases or the DNS names of the load balancer, you have to click on the alias option. Clicking on the alias option, you will get the options to select which alias you want to point it to. So in our case, which is the application or classic load balancer, so we're going to provide that. Then it will ask us to provide the region, which is the US East and Virginia region. You can see from, if we go here, you can see the N Virginia, which is the US East one region we are in, where we have created our resources. And then we will, when we click on it, it will just going to show which of the existing one. So we just need to make sure, like, this is the existing load balancer which is ended with some 695. So I'm just going to double check, it's 685. So let's just quickly check 685, that's the correct DNS name. So everything looks good, and I'm just going to click on create record. Now if I'm going to try to hit that endpoint, which is the sharmiojenkins.com, it will not going to work straight away. The reason is because I did not see whether the propagation has been happened or not. So if I'm seeing currently the status is still pending. So once the status is actually being synced, it will able to work. So let's just wait for the syncing is happening. So now it's the sync is happened. And now if I'm going to try to hit this endpoint, Sharmio Jenkins, to be, so it might be still taking time because of the propagation is still behind the scene is not happening. So I'm just gonna double check, is it actually the right one which I'm pointing to? Yes. So I'm just gonna wait for a while to this to be propagate. So currently this is not propagate. What I'm gonna do is, while this is propagating, because it might take like 5 minutes or 30 minutes depending upon how the DNS propagation work, what I'm gonna do is like X demo. I'm just creating another record because I want to point it to both of the DNS name to the same one. I'm just gonna again provide it the US East one and then the name of the load balancer. Now let's just check the status of this. So what I'm doing is I'm created two of the record. One is the Jenkins X demo. This is the one of the Sharmio which is pointing to the 685, and there is another one which is the Sharmio demo where it is that Sharmio Jenkins dot. So both are pointing to the same load balancer 685 685. Both are pointing to the same. Let's try to hit this endpoint and see does it able to propagate quickly. We can check the status first. It's already in sync, so the changes looks good, and see does it able to recognize. So this one already synced and the DNS propagation has already happened very quickly depending upon what sort of a record or the record name you're providing. While if I'm still gonna go to this one, the one which I created earlier, I don't think so it's still propagated at the time. So because if you see, they're pointing to the same alias, which is the same load balancer name, which is 685 and 685. So we can see the Sharmio x demo.sharmio.com, Jenkins x demo.sharmio.com is able to work. And if I'm just gonna go Sharmio demo and I'm just gonna put my password, I'm able to log in and I'm able to secure. And if I check the connection is secure, yes, it is secure and the certificate is valid. And it is using the same wildcard certificate which I have added and created from certificate manager. So congratulations if you're following across the same following this tutorial and the demonstration along watching the video, and you will able to, hopefully you will also able to make sure secure your session and secure your network as well as your application behind an SSL and TLS connection. And I'm gonna try to check the another one, which is the Sharmio Jenkins.sharmio.com. So this one is still taking time. And there is another website which is called this what's my DNS.net, which can actually provide you whether your DNS propagation has actually happened on everywhere or not. So we can see it is currently failed on two of them. One is in Pakistan and one is in China. So two of them is currently where the DNS propagation does not happen properly. So it might be I have to wait for like a couple of minutes to hour in able to to hit this endpoint. But as I mentioned, like the both are pointing to the same load balancer, so you can create as many records, and all records will be secured by itself because I'm using a wildcard certificate here. So I think that's it for this demonstration about how to install a Jenkins server, which I have shown in the past video, and how to secure your Jenkins and put it behind an application load balancer, and how to create a target group, and how you can actually, using a wildcard, you can create a multiple A records in it, and you can map it up to your DNS record to your hosted zone and access your application directly using the your DNS record names rather than just putting like this, which is an unsecure way, and you can able to access your Jenkins, because this is like not a best practices at all, and it is unsecure. Any malicious user can try to do some cross-site scripting on this application, so it's not a good recommended at all. Also, in the coming video, what I'm gonna do is like I'm gonna try to show you how you can actually do some more configurations on your Jenkins, how you can actually change the color of Jenkins, and how you can actually deploy some applications inside connecting to your Kubernetes cluster, and anything which you like to, how you can create more dynamic slaves or the worker agents so that when you wanted to match a certain labels, your Jenkins job should be able to configure and run some pipelines. So we're going to learn more about Jenkins in the coming videos. That's it for now. Thank you so much for watching this video all the way along. Hope you guys have a great day. Have a great weekend. Thank you. And keep subscribing Sharmio for more. Bye bye.